Hey there, welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be showing you how I made a diorama of Ningguang's office from Genshin Impact. Ningguang's office, and by extension the Jade Chamber itself, is one of my favourite locations in Genshin Impact. I remember stepping foot in the Jade Chamber for the first time, and being absolutely floored by the level of detail within. I knew for a fact that one day I would make Ningguang's office, and in the future I'll probably end up making the Jade Chamber itself. That is definitely a project for further down the line though. I'm not crazy enough to build something that detailed on such a small scale. Yet. The diorama starts off as a piece of MDF board, with 3 pieces of foam core board glued to it. I then start to lay down the floorboards, which are made out of paddle pop sticks. This is then painted dark brown, and is followed by a light brown dry brush. Taking another piece of foam core board, I cut it in half after cutting a circle into it, and then line the edges with pieces of cardboard to clean them up. This is going to become the front part of the diorama, or the entrance into Ningguang's office. I then start to turn my attention to the details on the walls. To make the pillars along the walls, I take some paper straws, plug the ends up with hot glue. I then paint the straws white, the tops black, followed by gold of course, and then splotch grey onto the white parts of the pillars. I then start to assemble the walls themselves, which are made out of strips of cardboard glued to each other. Nothing more complex than that, it's really just cardboard. In fact, a lot of this build is just cardboard. I add some larger cut up pieces of paddle pop sticks for detailing, followed by the tips of bamboo skewers for further detailing. Naturally, I had to repeat this process for the opposite wall, and then do a slightly different but mostly the same process for the back wall. I lost the footage for it, but the walls are then primed dark brown and then followed by a light brown dry brush. I then start to paint in the various white, black and gold details on each of the walls. I decided early on that I'd try to get as close as possible to the source material, but I wouldn't lose sleep if everything wasn't perfect. Still, I tried to make everything as accurate as possible. Once the painting was finished, it was just a case of gluing the walls on. Don't worry about the front walls, or the roof for that matter, for now. Those will go on later. I then decided to take a break from the main build and started working on the various bits and bobs you see around the model. I start by rolling out a sheet of white clay and then a sheet of brown clay. I cut both of these to size and then sandwiched the white clay in between strips of the brown clay. This is the same technique I used to make the books in the burner house. These are books, by the way. To make the scrolls, I stained some pre-cut toothpicks brown, and then using some strips of tissue paper, I glued them into place. This took a very long time to do. The video does not do it justice. The lights, both for the ceiling and the ones on the ground, freestanding? Who knows? Are made out of chunks of orange clay, with the tassel that's hanging from the big light made out of a little bit of red clay. The two large vases at the back of the diorama are made out of some green clay, and the teapots, which are absolutely tiny on this scale, are made out of dark brown clay. The potted plant that sits to the side of the diorama starts off as a bunch of wire that's twisted upon itself, then stuck into a half blob of blue clay. The little fragment that sits with the plant is made out of two pieces of clay, one green and one grey, and kind of mixed together. All of the clay bits are then thrown into the oven for a bake. The last thing I work on is the rugs, two green and one cream coloured. These are cut to size and then painted with gold detailing. The rest of the painting will get done later. Moving on to the furniture, I spent some time planning out the rough sizes of each piece of furniture in the build, and then proceed to make everything out of a mixture of cardboard and toothpicks. Tables, cupboards, chairs, you name it, it was made out of cardboard. And the occasional piece of balsa wood. Once assembled, everything was then primed brown, and then given a light brown dry brush. Now that all of the wood is a uniform colour, I start painting in the details. The bits and bobs aren't excluded from this, and I paint in the details on those as well. With everything painted, it's then a case of putting all of the items on the shelves. And with that, we've arrived at the assembly montage. With all the various bits and bobs in place, all that was left to do was to attach the walls and the roof. And with that, it's finished. thank you for watching. Yet again, this was another project that took a lot longer than expected. Maybe one day I'll learn how to properly manage my time when it comes to this channel. But today is not that day. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, have a good one.